Mind Your Business is brought to you by Today's Business, making business social. Hi, this is Barry Farber. Welcome to Mind Your Business. I predict we're going to have the most amazing guest in the universe coming on the show. Don't go away. Hi, I'm Barry Farber, and this is Mind Your Business. What do you think the top characteristic or strategy of really building a business is these days? There's many of them, but I'll tell you what's at the top: listening. Listening to your customer, asking them questions, finding out what makes them tick, building that relationship because you took the time to do research before going into the call, so you came up with qualified, really effective questions to ask that prospect or the customer, whoever you're seeing, and made them talk about themselves and who they are. People love to talk about themselves. No sales rep in this industry, in the history of sales, I think, ever listened themselves out of a sale. You know, maybe they've talked themselves out of a sale, but nobody's ever listened themselves out of a sale where the customer said, I don't like him. He listens too much. He really understands my needs. I don't really like him. So what are we going to do about listening? Well, we can take a break sometimes and not worry about 2-second, 3-second pauses. Sometimes that's where the magic is, in the pause, because the other person's going to start talking or asking a good question and just stopping. But we're going to have somebody really take a look at what is the greatest strategy in the world to build a relationship, and we're going to have the amazing Kreskin come on. Who is the amazing Kreskin? I'll tell you who he is. For 6 decades, he's looked into the unique facets of the human mind, his own. His very name has become an integral part of pop culture throughout the world. During the past 50 years, Kreskin has had a television series, his own board game by Milton Bradley, 20 published books, a major motion picture inspired by his work. He's had many appearances on the legendary Johnny Carson show, David Letterman, Regis Philbin, Jimmy Fallon, Neil Cavuto, and Howard Stern. He's worked with athletes like the New York Mets' Matt Harvey on how to think more efficiently, with boxers, and we're going to see how amazing he is when we come back right after this.
Our next guest is a legendary mentalist who is the first guest here on Late Night to make a return appearance. Ladies and gentlemen, the amazing Kreskin.
You're going to have a tension going through your entire body. Your arms are pressed to your sides. Your body's now going to start becoming rigid. The entire body rigid like a bar of steel. You stay as you are. You hear what I'm saying? Completely rigid like a bar of steel, like a bar of steel. Now listen, you're going to lift him up. You're going to slowly lift him up. 5, 4, 3. When your eyes open, you're going to feel refreshed in every way, shape, or form. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Wow.
Jimmy, can I
don't know what just happened,
Can I say something?
We just finished dinner and it was time for homework. He hates homework. I know he's bright.
Why is it so hard for me?
He's
I'm
just
trying
gotta
as
try a
hard
little
as
harder.
I can.
1 in 5 children struggle with learning and attention issues. Go from misunderstanding to understood.org.
And for the first time on Mind Your Business, we have the amazing Kreskin. The amazing Kreskin. You've got a strong handshake, you know that.
Well, you know, when when Tom Hanks did the movie The Great Buck Howard, which you folks, the viewers, can watch with their family about 6 years ago, John Malkovich plays me through the whole movie. And opening night when they had the show on, when the movie was on Broadway, when we went to the red carpet at the end, we get to the end when no one could hear us. And Hanks hugs me and says, thanks for letting Tom Hanks hugs me and says, thanks for letting my son play you. He says, I want to tell you the good and the bad side about making the movie. And Tom Hanks is a very kind, gentle man. The image you see him on camera is the kind of person he is, which is not always true of every actor. And I said, the good and the bad side. He says, the good side is that John watched days of videos, so he got all your mannerisms down, Kreskin. I said, yeah. He said, let me tell you the bad side. I said, yeah. He says, Kreskin, so help me God, for 3 days, John Malkovich went up to 30 people and shook hands for 3 minutes like this. We were all wishing we had a chiropractor.
Right? I'm telling you, that's your
It's become a signature.
Absolutely, it's beautiful. And you know what? Attitude is everything. You know, when you meet somebody, you're happy to see them. I feel like you just have a great attitude every time we get together.
And I always say, folks, I dare not read his thoughts. I'm only kidding on camera. You know, we can't.
Wait, let's just say you don't claim to be a mind reader, a psychic, but a mentalist is.
Well, I claim under certain conditions. I happen to believe very, very deeply, and I don't make any special claims. But under certain conditions, I can perceive a person's thoughts. But what's caused a lot of interest now is that people are finding it interesting how I can influence people's behavior. And you and I have talked because of the work you're in, and the advice you give to viewers, how our behavior and how we think can also influence the result of a scenario. I do a lot of seminars with private companies and corporations, and they run about 3.5 to 4.5 hours, in which I condition businessmen on how to readjust their thinking, because I'm a voracious reader. I read 4 books a night when I'm home, and I don't say this to brag, as Howard Stern.
4 books a night. Well, but when you were 11, you read the entire library psychology section.
The entire
11 years old.
All the children's libraries, so they gave me permission to read the books in adult library. So my library is now 8,000 books. But if you read the biographies of successful, and I've read over 1,000 biographies, you'll find that every successful person has had a way of stopping the world and getting off, of reflecting and meditating. And we're losing that gift today. Einstein, when he fled from Germany, of course, and came to this country, and by the way, thank God, he picked up the phone and called FDR and said, Mr. President, there's something you don't understand. It sounds called atomic energy. You've got to prepare with what Germany is about to do. Given about 6 more months of the war, we would have lost World War II. I can show you the pathway where the Nazis were coming from Mexico into the United States. It was all well planned. But fortunately, we saved things, and I won't go into that right now. But Einstein, when he was teaching at one of the universities in New Jersey, they told me every day or two would get in a canoe and row it to the middle of a lake and pull the oars in and let the canoe glide. Mm-hmm. Now, JFK did something differently, as the people who worked with him said. They said, Kreskin, when he had a meeting with the heads of the state or the military, what have you, he was always in a suit. When he left, he went into his office, shut the door. We were not allowed to call him. He read trash magazines. He read filthy trash magazines. Brilliant thinking. And the reason he read these magazines is to get his mind off of all the authoritative figures that said important things to him. So when he set it aside and he thought, his unconscious came through.
Right.
And we've lost this gift. Now, I jog every night for about 20 minutes, and I do not wear earphones because I want to, for once, listen to something else, and that's my inner thoughts. Mm-hmm. We're not doing that anymore. We've forgotten how to do that.
Well, I think in terms of mind your business and about people out there who are having a business meeting that they're preparing for, I think that saying still waters run deep, I figured out years ago was, once it's still, all the silt settles and it's clear. And it's like your mind, once you can sit still and get everything away from you, whether it's meditating or going to a place that's quiet, automatically all your experiences start to mend in there somehow, and ideas come out and flow like crazy. And I think, what are some of the things you've learned? Look, you've read 1,000 biographies, you have 8,000 books, you have the capacity to, when you say read somebody's thoughts.
If they concentrate.
What are some tips, because people don't have the time to do what you've done over all these decades.
Well,
what were some key 2-3 tips that you can give a business person before they go to a meeting that will make a huge difference in what they do?
Well, first of all, when you have meetings, and sometimes because of business reading and broadcasting and what have you, you have to have a cell phone there. But I go into restaurants, and of course what I'm going to say, everybody says, of course it's so obvious. I see people who are socializing that have a cell phone on the table. Now, understand that there was a point in history when if people were in love or had a rapport or had a close trust, they didn't have machinery between them. What you're telling people every time you put that down, and sociologists say, Kreskin, the public does not understand what they're doing. They're putting something between themselves and the person they're relating with. They're breaking, first of all, you could say, well, you know, and I'm going to tell you something I've just announced 24 hours ago that's rather alarming and what have you. But at the same time, we need to hear and listen and feel what someone is saying to us.
How? How do we do that?
Well, there's a word that was coined when I was a boy. My degree's in psychology, but I don't brag about it because I've never met so many whacked out people as in the field of psychiatry. Highest mental illnesses in psychiatry of all the professions.
Really?
Highest mental illness for many years. For suicide rate, it was for about 8 years. But at the same time, there was a word coined to describe a man that TV Guide couldn't figure out what the hell he was doing. And psychologists, finally they said, this man has a gift of something that will describe what he does. It's empathy. It's the ability to feel the way someone feels. He was the most powerful person in the history of broadcasting. Steve Allen, before he died, said, Kreskin, I'm willing you my research on him. I know you've done research, but someone needs to do his life. The man happened to be Arthur Godfrey. So powerful that had Eisenhower been, and Eisenhower did not run for office until Godfrey gave him permission. So powerful, and finally New York Times researched it, that had the president been assassinated, every major station had a recording of Godfrey's voice that simply said, this is Arthur talking to you. I want you to wait till I get to a live microphone. The man had created, he was more...
Empathy, you said.
Yes, because empathy is not sympathy. Sympathy is understanding how someone thinks. But empathy is a wonderful gift. It's feeling the way someone else feels. And the people who can achieve this in life make giant leaps. I don't care if they work machinery or they're in broadcasting or they sell products or what have you. The ability to feel the way someone feels, that's the word empathy. And I learned that from a man who's been forgotten today. The guy that was, the guy on 60 Minutes who used to say sarcastically, he died last year. At the end, what's the fellow's name? He would always say, you know, different things and criticize. He worked for Godfrey, first of all, and said, the man's going to be forgotten, but we're not learning. The other thing is that we're not learning from history, and I don't live in the past, but we learn from the past, and we're not teaching history anymore. We're not teaching history. If you really want to know how a man that's the head of another country that shot his brother-in-law and shot others, how he's going to behave, study how every dictator behaves in history. They don't change. The people of England, the gigantic mistake, and I love the British people. I worked 2 years, I did a television series from England. They didn't listen to a man who was the greatest giant in politics in the 1930s and 40s, and that was Winston Churchill. If you read 1,000 of his pages, he told you what was going to happen at the end of the 40s. But no, a man went to Hitler and made an agreement with him, came back, and he says, I have a letter from the Fuhrer. He's not going to attack England. We have to learn how and we can learn from the past.
So before we go to break, to people in layman terms, here are some things you can do to really create that empathy and understand how people are feeling and connect with somebody, because that's the key today, is connections and relationships.
Well, one of the first things to do is to learn as much as you can about the person. If you can watch them in a broadcast,
beforehand,
read what they beforehand, and then sit down and reflect on what you'd like to get across to them. But listen to your thoughts, and also learning enough about the person. Prepare to have a feeling that you're going to be comfortable with them, because the most skillful thing of all when you meet a person, I'll tell you what the most skillful thing of all is. Damn it, listening to them. Not to what they say. Listen to their silence. When you walk away from, if you get away from someone that you met early in the day, I've taught multitudes of policemen to do this that are called in on horrendous cases, because I have personally been involved in 86 crime cases. I've only been able to help in about a third of them. the police would say, Kreskin, some of them are so horrible. You got to worry about lawyers. You got to worry about other people and what's going to be said. And I've trained them when they get home to shut the door in their house, let the kids play for maybe 25 minutes, and relive the sound and what they heard and the noise. And they say, you know what, Kreskin?
The reflection.
Now that I'm by myself, I start hearing things I didn't hear before.
Right. We're going to reflect on that in a second. When we come back, I want to go
I predict we're coming back, by the way.
You do? That's not a bad prediction there. Could be maybe we won't come back. I don't know.
Don't say that. Of course we're coming back.
What's the percentage?
You are remarkable. By the way, you're one of my favorite broadcasters. You really,
I appreciate that. That's nice
have
to
a
hear,
handle,
especially from you.
And you've got your fingers on the pulse of the audience.
Kreskin, we're coming back in a moment. 88 times on Carson, Jimmy Fallon, Howard Stern, all over the place.
Regis just announced it was 125 times with Regis.
125. That's crazy. We'll be right back with the amazing Kreskin. Don't go away.
After 15 years of smoking, Eva Marie quit. There's a new lung cancer screening that could save her life. You stopped smoking. Now start screening. Learn more at savedbythescan.org.
Welcome back. We're with the amazing Kreskin on Mind Your Business. Mind, the greatest thing in the world between our ears. And how much do we use it? We're going to find out how to tap into it.
Barry,
but look,
yeah,
this is the 20th book.
I got to tell you something.
Am I interrupting you?
No, I got to tell you something
This
about
is
your crew.
The
You
crew?
got a crew here.
Yeah, great crew.
He has I've met all of them. You got a great crew. They're flaky, but they're wonderful. They have a warmth about them. Those are the only interesting crews that are flaky and warm.
Warm and flaky.
Oh, this poor guy's going to go out here with
like
it.
a good cannoli. Okay, so I'm reading this. I'm reading
You
Amazing
heard about-
Kreskin. I'm looking at this thing that is a letter for your next
Yeah,
show
go ahead,
here,
yeah.
but it says National Gaming Authority John Romero in his book Las Vegas: The Untold Story states Kreskin is the most dangerous man in the world with a deck of cards. The casinos would rather deal to Willie Sutton.
Well,
what is he?
I can tell you first of all, in Aruba, I was performing. I was at a nightclub for a few weeks. The people in Aruba, my series wasn't seen there, but the people were coming to see me from England, United States, Canada. And closing night, I said to my road manager, I'm going to go and play blackjack. He said, can you? I said, they don't know me here. I'm going to another casino. So I went to another casino. I walked in. $37. This is in a mini documentary that's been on television a few times. I put it down. I don't remember what the conversion is in what they call Aruba, so I'm playing. You go dance with the gals, they come in every 20 minutes and go like this. And when he came on the show, when they did this docu thing a couple of years ago, he said, I was there and we counted the money. So I was winning, and finally I said, my God, we're leaving at 3:30 in the morning. So we went to my hotel room. We cashed the money in. And I found a driver. I said, can you drive me somewhere here in town? I'll give you whatever the tip is. I want to convert this to U.S. currency. We went somewhere. We came to my hotel room, and we put the cash, $100 bills, on the bed. And I called the guy that booked me, who was from Florida, who was living in Aruba. He said, what's the matter with you, Chris? I know you're leaving. I said, get in here right now. He came in my room and said, oh, my God, what the hell did you do? I said, help me fold this. Because in a suitcase, I would have been investigated, maybe a drug bust. I gained around 40 pounds because when I left from $37, I won $22,400. $22,400.
Because you can read.
Well, I know cards. I can memorize a shuffle deck in about 12 seconds.
12 seconds.
But I'm going to show you why
My son is.
Does he play? What's he like to play?
Loves
Poker?
Yes, he would. Maybe you can give him.
I'm going to show you something. And I don't allow this to happen anymore in Vegas when I work there, because in the early days, I'd be sitting out to eat, and I'd be sitting with some friends after work, and suddenly I would put a deck of cards on the table, say 22 or 31, no more. I'm going to show you something which I think you're going to find fascinating, because This has nothing to do with sleight of hand. I don't want you to see the card I put here. Nothing to do with sleight of hand. It has to do with you. I'm going to control and influence your response. And the only way this is going to work is if I can influence your response. Barry, whenever I appear, even in Minnesota State Fair, which was 10,000, I have 3 decks of cards on the table, and this has not to do with sleight of hand. Private shows all over the place, they say, Kreskin, we're going to have 3 decks of cards there. I'm not going to touch this. Let me put that there. This is another. That's a brand new deck. That's a brand new deck of cards, except one card is missing, and it's in here. When you take the deck out and show it to the camera, they'll see it's no, because there's one card missing from that deck. Barry, this is another deck. Which camera should I want the audience to see? It's a regular. You can see the cards are all. Can they see? Can you see the cards fairly close up? Yes, sir. Someone tell me. I don't know if you can.
Yes, they
all
have
right.
it.
Let me take the jokers out of the deck. Here's what you're going to do. There's 52 cards here. One of these cards is a duplicate of the card that's missing, but you don't know what that card is. And let me mix these up. This is not slide. These are mixed cards. What you're going to do is this, Barry, and wait till I talk to you about this. You're going to reach down. When cards are shuffled, there's always a cut. But what you're going to do is you're going to cut the deck anywhere you want. And to mark the cut, you're going to, right on camera, turn the deck over and put it right on top. That way, Barry, when you split the cards out, everybody can see there's no sleight of hand. You cut to the 6 of diamonds. You see what I'm doing?
I'm just going to take that and turn it over. And
yeah,
put it
you're going to put it. So one more time, because I've got to lock this in your mind. You're going to turn the deck over. You're going to, and then when you spread all these cards, the face-up cards out, you'll see it's from this. There's only one thing. Listen to me, Barry. There is a card missing from that deck, and it's in my pocket here. And this is a complete deck of playing cards. Let me set this in front of you, and just listen to me for a second before you do anything. There's one card. I've taken the jokers out. There's 52 cards there. Barry, I want you to reach down, cut some cards off the deck. Just lift some off the deck. One in your hand. And using both hands, turn the pile over in your hand. Put a face up on top. Put a face up on top. You didn't cut very deeply. You didn't cut deeply at all. I want you, so no one thinks this is a sleight of hand. I will never touch these cards. I want you to push off only the face-up cards. Just push only the face-up ones. You can use both hands. I don't want any of the cards to fall off the table. All right, push the face-up ones off. You don't know the cards you cut to. Take that deck out. This deck was shuffled, and I shuffled it 3 or 4 times. Spread the cards out. It's completely new in your hand.
Face up?
Yeah, face up in your hand. You can spread up. And tell me what card's missing. It's easy to find out because they're all in order. The spades are in order. Look at the hearts and look at the numbers of the hearts. And look at what you did there. Pass the hearts. What's missing?
2 hearts.
And you can go through the rest of the deck. There's no other card missing. They're all in order. 2 hearts is missing.
Yep.
You had 52 cards to cut to. Turn over the cards. Turn it over.
That's crazy.
And by the way, if anyone thinks this is some sleight of hand, that's the card. I had to cause you.
That's crazy, because I was going to go.
I know you were. You were going to cut deeper, and you changed your mind because when I paused and went through this, I programmed you to change your mind. You were going to call.
That's crazy.
You were about to cut.
That's pretty cool.
I'm going to tell you.
That's like when you came to my home studio. We did the radio show. And he tells me to take a book off the shelf.
Could have been any book on the face of the earth.
And open up to any page and look at a word. Now shut it, put it back.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even near you, and you told me that word. That was crazy.
But you know what's interesting here? And
this is crazy.
He's aware of this. Folks, if you play this back, you will notice that he reached down and I said, wait a minute, I want to talk to you. You were going to cut to approximately the 23rd card down from the top of the deck.
I was going to go a lot deeper than that.
Well, I had to stop him and talk to him. I never said cut lightly, but you cut exactly. Cool. Isn't that interesting?
Right, so you know what? See, I see this. This is amazing stuff, right? And you don't use any electronics. You
no, this is not. And by the way, if anybody, Barry, one more thing. If anybody said this was sleight of hand, I never touched these cards. I could have stood at the other end of this room, long as you heard my voice, because what I was saying and the timing of as your fingers touched and when you glassed exactly the right point.
Let's take all your knowledge from all the books you've read, all the people you've seen, all the shows you've been on, 88 Johnny Carson shows all the way up to Fallon, Jimmy Fallon, and Howard Stern, and all the people you've met, the celebrities and you've worked with. What are like 2 or 3 great nuggets of information about how to live a great life, how to be successful. Let's say this show's about business, okay? It's about succeeding in business, but it's also about succeeding in life, because you can't be good at what you're doing at business if you're not happy. You know, it affects your performance.
One thing, you know, people say, well, let me just say this. 2 years ago, it wasn't this year, but 2 years ago, if you counted, and we didn't do it the last year, it was two and a half years ago, but if you counted all the radio, television, and concert appearances I did in that year exactly 364 appearances. Yeah. Exactly 364 appearances. That people say to me, and people in the industry and television know, that see my schedule sometimes, Kreskin, how do you handle this? It must be, and traveling is an arduous thing. It's the hardest thing of all. But you want to know something? I have a passion for what I do. I'm having a ball, even when things are difficult, and there are challenging times and there are difficult times.
Like, what was one challenging time where you learned something?
Well, I remember a situation whereby the police came to me here in my hometown. I will not mention, and this man came to me. About a year ago, I asked for a volunteer from the audience. I said, I want to do a thought reading effect with cards. This man came up. I said, have we ever met before? He said, yes. I said, during the meet and greet, we'll talk. I don't want people to think this is rigged. When did we meet? He said, 30 years ago. I said, what do you mean? He says, I was hit by a car. I stopped. I said, do you mind telling the public this? And it happened not too many miles from here. He was a young, an older teenager walking down the street. A car hit him and threw him maybe 60 or 70 feet. He was pronounced dead. He looks in great health today. And the police came and said, there is life here. We're going to get him to emergency ward. And then they came to my house later in the day. They called. They found my office was open then with 3 women. And they said, Kreskin, these women are out of control. There's hysteria, but there's a hit and run. We can't piece together any evidence. I couldn't work with one woman. She was too hysterical. The other 2, I was able separately to sit and talk to them and finally piece together part of a license plate. The first one, we got the first half, the second, more or less the second half, and we put together one, and they got that car in Connecticut. The next day, it was hit and run.
Really?
They got the man who did it and were able to solve the case. All right, the thing is over with. But a month later, the police come to my house. My brother was a policeman in New Jersey. He said to me, I think you better meet these people. I said, what is it a new case? I saw them. I said, I worked with you on the hit and run. They said, Kreskin, remember that before that, a month or 2 before, we brought to you a heavy man who was, I said, yeah, I can remember. He had witnessed a number of crime cases, and they felt, I said, I'm sorry I couldn't work with him. I couldn't get the rapport. I couldn't get the confidence in the rapport. Mm-hmm. They said, it's probably good you didn't work with him. I said, what do you mean? They said, he was the person who enacted the hit and run case which you helped us solve. I said, yes. They said, but it turns out he's one of the key heads of the mafia here in Essex County, New Jersey. Can you imagine, they meant this, had I worked with them and started uncovering information, maybe my life would have been compromised. So sometimes you learn about what your senses tell you, and you listen to yourself, even under stress. Inside, You've got to listen to your gut feel. And you can't play the blame game. Right now we are learning in our culture the blame game.
You know the show's almost done. It goes like this.
Can I say something to you about the spirit of broadcasting? And I say this all over the world, and I mean this so much to you. I would never say goodbye to you. I'd always say to you, to be continued.
Yes, we will. Yes.
And that I foresee.
Yeah. You're the best. That's the Kreskin handshake. Thanks for coming on. Amazing Kreskin.
Oh.
This is Barry Farber. Mind your business. See you next time. Mind Your Business is brought to you by Today's business, making business social.